Mr. Murdoch, you've been the cause of much distress. Stop talking. There's no need for this. There's no escape. The city's ours. We made it.
What are you talking about?
We fashioned this city on stolen memories. Different eras, different pasts, all rolled into one. Each night we revise it, refine it, in order to learn.
Learn what?
About you, Mr. Murdoch. You and your fellow inhabitants. What makes you human?
Why?
We need to be like you. I understand you now, Mr. Murdoch. I remember that which you do not. What you've been missing. The ocean, yes. Running along the waves as a child. Meeting Emma at the river. That first kiss that followed.
What are you?
You've seen what we are. We use your dead as vessels.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
It appears that Eric has suffered a psychotic break, complete memory loss. He may be delusional, even violent. Emma, if he were to contact you, and I suspect he will, you must call me immediately. Do you understand? It is imperative that I be the first one to reach him. Wherever your husband is, he is searching for himself.
And yet to find it. Welcome back to the High Tech Low Life podcast, everybody, with your hosts, Eric and Josh. I'm Eric.
And I'm Josh.
Welcome back, everybody. This week we are covering Dark City, which is definitely the most cyberpunk thing we've ever covered.
Oh yeah, certainly much more cyberpunk than what we covered last week.
And definitely much more than what we're covering next week, but we'll save that to the end.
Yes.
It's good though. It shares themes.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. That's one of those, as we've talked about before, I think on a lot of posts, we have talked about before how we don't like saying something is or isn't cyberpunk. The more interesting question is, how cyberpunk is it?
Yeah. How cyberpunk is it?
This movie is not very cyberpunk.
No.
But you can make some tenuous connections, and it's a cool movie to watch. I mean, like,
is there high tech and low life? There's definitely high tech.
Ish.
There's some low life. I mean, everybody's kind of low life, I guess, compared to the people in control. So yeah, I mean, it definitely.
Yeah, you can bend your brain around it a little bit,
right? And it's on the lists, and it. I know they're gonna bitch about r/cyberpunk again. Sure. They hate vibes. The word vibes is banned in their subreddit. Like if you make a post with vibes in it, you can't post it. I saw a guy complaining about it the other day. Place is a shithole.
Yeah.
But I love it and I read it every day. Anyway, we'll talk about Dark City here in a mini. First, we're going to do what we always do on this show, warm up, talk about what we've been experiencing in the world and watching in the world. We call it Dystopia Talk and Recommendos. First of all, for the dystopias, it's been a great week. Nothing's gone wrong, and I don't know if we have anything to talk about.
Yeah, I think the only thing, and I don't think this is like important or, really dystopian at all, was that the mask has come completely off, I guess. In big public speeches, Trump is talking about how he's going to have fucking ICE hit squads capturing immigrants, legal or ill.
Good thing I don't know any of those.
Yeah. And also that, God, I wish I had thought to pull it up, but there was a really great section from his speech. I think it was in Aurora, Colorado the other night, about how the greatest enemy of America is not China or Russia. It's the scum.
Yeah, the enemy within.
Yeah.
Which is like,
which is definitely not classic.
I want to
like directly cribbing from Hitler's speeches in 1933.
These people who support President Trump, ex-President Trump, I don't know how you're supposed to say it. I want to like show them these speeches and ask, like, have you seen a World War II movie? Like,
yeah,
this is how the bad guy talks. And I understand some people, like, I guess, they like justify it in their minds, say, well, he doesn't really mean all that, and
yeah,
he's going to be better for the economy, so it's worth the trade-off. And I gotta say, man, that's the kind of talk that leads to holocausts and genocides and stuff. You can't give him that foot in the door. You can't roll the dice on something like that.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I don't know. I just feel like we've already got enough genocides and holocausts going on right now. I don't need another on my plate.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Kind of like to get rid of the ones we've got before we start a new one here within our own borders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that speech. That was a bummer. That's pretty dystopian.
Yeah.
We had another hurricane back to back.
Yeah, that was good.
Talk about hurricane every week in the month of October.
Yeah. Hurricoctober.
Hurricoctober?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Not opposed.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we're cyberpunk body mods, whatever.
Yeah.
That one went better than it was looking like it was going to.
Yeah, there's a lot of like weeping meteorologists on TikTok right before it hit.
Yeah, I think I'm given to understand that we lucked out a lot.
Yeah, it sounds that way. Which I'm sure will continue to happen in the future.
Yeah.
Let's just, if we could get around to it, buy some time and like fix climate change and the rise of fascism, we could just put a pin in those two things. And
well, I mean, all we have to do is, get the Democrats out of office, and then they'll stop making hurricanes because, those people make the hurricanes.
Yeah, they do.
At which point you really have to question, why do the Republicans suck so bad? Why haven't they mastered the fucking weather yet?
What's wrong with you guys?
Sounds like a skill issue. Yeah.
Skill issue. Yeah. Well, maybe one day. I don't know. You know what? I'm so, and I know this is by design and bad. I cannot talk or think about politics anymore. And I know it's because we're in October of an election year, obviously. Yeah. But oh my God.
I think that same thing typically starting in February after an election year.
Yeah, true. It does start earlier these days.
Okay. Once upon a time, man, it was, you'd get a year of it. Not even a year. Like,
yeah,
no longer.
I have friends or a friend that works like pretty heavily in like, I don't know, voting stuff around here, that they volunteer and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're also involved in the Democratic Party locally. And they were talking about one of their friends who was very upset about the concept of Trump winning and like doomsday upset, like the world's going to end. And I'm like, that's not good thinking either, man. Like, Trump winning is bad, but you've got to keep living your life, or else what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
Because it's a high likelihood, frankly, that it's going to happen and it's going to suck. But like, you can harm mitigate outside of your vote, and that's what you got to plan to do, and not just like start filling your bunker with rice and beans.
Yeah. Although rice and beans are great.
Yeah, fill your bunker with rice and beans, but you got to do more than that.
We on High Tech Low Life are fans of rice and beans. We do, though, recommend get some seasonings to go with them.
Yeah, throw some Old Bay in there.
Don't be a white person about it. Huh?
Be a white person about your bunker prep rice and beans.
Yeah, don't come on, man. Flavors.
It's important.
Be real.
It'll make the apocalypse so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Okay. What are we watching this week? That was fun. It's always so fun to talk about this soap. I'm so glad we started doing it.
Yeah, I know. It's we picked just the right time to start.
Yeah. Remember we talked about teen dramas on the WB?
Yeah,
those are good times.
Yeah, they really were. Just so relaxing. We'd get all fired up and angry about politics and riots and shit, and then we'd like sit there and watch 30-year-olds dressed in overalls going roller skating.
Yeah.
Good times.
Perhaps for future podcast ideas, escapism should be the goal, not so much diving headlong into the worst parts of our lives.
Yeah, that really helped me through a lot of shit. The fact that we were doing fucking that show.
Yeah. But it's over, so fuck all of us.
Anyway, you Creek of the Week listeners are still out there, and we love you.
Yeah.
We miss you.
What have you been watching this week? I pretty much until the other day exclusively was watching baseball. I put down like
that's understandable.
8 or 9 fucking full ass baseball games in like 5 days.
Yeah.
And never done that before. I've always liked watching games of my local team, but I've been into the whole postseason, so I've just been watching so many games. And I think once our team got knocked out, I think I need a break. Plus my backup team also got knocked out, and now frankly, I just want the coasts to be sad. So Guardians, Cleveland all the way. But I think I got to stop watching baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems fair. Give it a break. It's fucking 2 weeks till the World Series.
Yeah.
I mean,
seems unbelievable.
Yeah. Take a couple of weeks off and see if you're back by then. And if not, no big deal.
Yeah. Pick it up again in April.
Yeah. You catch the box scores.
Yeah. That's probably the move.
Yeah.
For me, if for other people who can handle it, go for it. It's been a fun postseason. But anyway, what else? You said you had something.
Yes. I want to recommend a book that when Jeff was on a while back, I think it was when at this point, I can't remember if it's when Jeff was on our show or if it was when I was talking to him in person. I think it was when he was on our show.
Timing works out to be about the same time.
Yeah. He recommended a book called The Butcher of the Forest by a woman named Premi Mohammed. Mm-hmm. And I recognized the title because I'd read one of her short story collections. And a couple of weeks ago, I just needed something to read. So I started one of her other books, a book called The Siege of Burning Grass.
Mouthful.
Yeah. And I want to recommend it because it is I have never read a book that had a viewpoint like it before. It's kind of a fantasy sci-fi, kind of in that who cares one way or the other type thing, world. And the whole book follows a character who is a pacifist who is trying to stop a war, which is almost exactly the opposite of most fantasy sci-fi books involving a war. Usually
they're trying to end it by winning it.
Yeah.
But not,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this character is a principled nonviolence pacifist, and it's really interesting. It's good.
They're not getting in any big fights or anything like that.
No, there are a couple throughout the book that sort of take place around him. And he hates it and tries, and most of them, he makes it so they have to take place off screen because he runs the fuck away or, he doesn't want to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's it's a very good book, well written and everything, but I think the main reason I'm recommending it is because it is a very different viewpoint from what you see in stuff.
Yeah, we recently on, maybe it was the show with Jeff actually, brought up how there's like no comedies without guns.
Yeah.
Which was profound and stuck with me. And I was bringing it up with my wife, and we were all like trying to think, it's true. Violence has become so inherent to everything.
Yeah.
It is nice to see somebody have that take, I bet.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, because I had no idea what to expect. I was just like, oh, I liked her other book. I'll start this up. The title is cool, The Siege of Burning Grass. I mean, sure. And it was like, a third of the way into the book, like, so this is what we're doing here. Wow, that's really neat.
As long as they can manage to keep it interesting.
Yeah, it really was. So recommendo for that. Premi Muhammad, The Siege of Burning Grass.
I really need to start writing our recommendos down somewhere, especially the book ones.
Mm.
It's one thing to say, go watch Three's Company. It's a good show, but it's nothing when you're listing specifically. Why did my brain go there?
Oh, hey, not a recommendo, but I did have another thing that I wanted to bring up on the air. And we texted about this a little bit the other night. Going back to the episode where Robin was our guest, Tank Girl, and we were talking about how Tank Girl is effectively Bugs Bunny. And I realized over the course of a couple of days that is one of my favorite non-genres of movies at all. Main character plays a Looney Tune, not animated. And there are some amazing examples of that. I think I mentioned Ash from Evil Dead. He's obviously, or Ash in Army of Darkness specifically, is obviously fucking Daffy Duck. He's incredibly arrogant.
I agreed with completely. Yeah.
He's incredibly arrogant. Everything blows up in his face because he's an ass. I mean,
maybe that's why I loved Daffy. Was always my favorite Looney Tune.
Yeah,
and maybe that's why I loved Army of Darkness so much.
Yeah. Well, and the inherent differences between Daffy and Bugs are that there's chaos around Daffy, but he's always trying to control it to his own ends, while Bugs is similarly, what else did I come up with? Raising Arizona, Nicolas Cage is Woody Woodpecker.
Not a Looney Tune, but
it's
a thing.
Yeah. So hit us up with more recommendos for that.
Who's a Porky Pig?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's the overall vibe of Porky Pig? Just kind of a nice guy that bumbles into things,
I guess.
I'm sure there's Porky Pigs out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're probably in other Coen Brothers movies, for God's sake.
Yeah, true.
Maybe Donnie.
Yeah. He's not really as abused, but I feel like there's a whole thesis that could be written.
Yeah.
Speaking of old episodes, I wanted to also point out from after last week's episode, we actually had a comment on YouTube explaining what Oedo means.
Oh, sweet.
And it means the Great Edo, which was
Edo,
Tokyo's name before 1868. So there you go. We looked all over for that in the episode and couldn't figure it out.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, I knew Edo was the name for Tokyo prior to the modern period, but I did not. I thought maybe it was just some weird transliteration thing, or who knows. But okay. Thank you, YouTube commenter.
Yeah, shout out to @LostScene for helping us out.
Yeah.
Follow us on YouTube if you haven't. People are commenting on there, but we need more. Actually, we should probably comment more on there to people who do comment on there.
I have commented a number of times to people on there.
Okay, you're probably doing better than me. I actually get notifications when they happen, so I don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
Hey, boy. Okay, so I don't have any more recommendos. I think that finishes old business. I think it's time to talk about Dark City.
Yes. Dark City, a movie that I maybe made an error about.
An error?
Yeah.
Why?
Okay.
What do you mean?
Well, Let me just start talking about it, and you might figure it out immediately. So, this movie starts with just a camera floating in space and staring out into space. Then it goes through some clouds, and then you see Kiefer Sutherland staring at space, and then he checks a pocket watch, and then it turns midnight, and then it goes off of the hands go off of midnight, and then Rufus Sewell wakes up in a filthy bathtub.
Yes.
Is that exactly what happened in yours?
God, I didn't know there was going to be a quiz. I'd have paid closer attention. I remember the stopwatch. I remember the bathtub. But was the bathtub filthy? Is that what you're getting at?
No. Just generally, that is not it here. Let me pull this up and see if you recognize the lines. Let's see. Oh wait, no, that's not it. First there was darkness, then came the strangers. They were a race as old as time itself. They had mastered the ultimate technology, the ability to alter physical reality by will alone. They called this ability tuning, but they were dying. Their civilization was in decline, and so they abandoned their world, seeking a cure for their own mortality. Their endless journey brought them to a small blue world in the farthest corner of the galaxy. Our world. Here they thought they had finally found what they had been searching for.
Okay.
Do you recognize that?
No, but I do recognize that I was reading the IMDb trivia and said that it had a voiceover, and I could not remember. Does the version I had watched have a voiceover? Couldn't remember. And now that you've read it to me, it most certainly did not have that voiceover.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, we both watched the director's cut.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I did not mean to. I went and I went to watch it and thought, well, this is not labeled director's cut. Surely it wouldn't be the director's cut, because I see a copy labeled director's cut.
Oh, really? That's weird.
And watched it, and I was like, I just swore there was a awkward fucking narration shoehorned in the beginning of this, just like Blade Runner. Weird. Oh, well, I must have been wrong. That was 25 years ago. And then yesterday, I went to watch the director's cut, because that's what I have on Blu-ray. Mm-hmm. And was like, no, okay, this is exactly the same as the movie I watched yesterday. So I wasn't sure if I was going to come in here and we would have seen two very different movies.
No, well, from what I've heard, the only difference is that narration. At least that's what it says on IMDb. Is there more differences than that?
I think there are more differences than that.
Okay. Well, I think that narration sucks.
Yeah, I think it's terrible.
My favorite part about watching this movie is thinking to myself, what are these fucking guys? Are these aliens? Are these like from another world? Like having them spell it out is obnoxious. I hate it.
Spell it out in second 5
of
the movie? Yeah, fuck that.
God, movie studios are fucking idiots sometimes.
Yeah, apparently Alex Proyas was presented after he finished, filming and, showed the movie to the studio and stuff. Apparently, a studio executive told him literally to dumb it down.
And that's so.
And he said, I never knew. I never suspected that a studio would actually say that, because his experiences up till then were like, you might make this more accessible or something like that. But literally to use the wording, dumb it down.
This is not like super high concept.
No,
movie.
It's a little twisty. And I mean, honestly, you can explain the whole thing in about 3 fucking sentences. It's just, it doesn't do the reveal of, oh, these guys are fucking aliens until substantially in.
Yeah. And yeah, that's disheartening. I guess it was the 90s. We're in a, I don't know. I'm thinking about other movies that were kind of hard, like that were unique to follow. Like maybe didn't tell in linear directions. Like Pulp Fiction did that, and like Memento maybe. But this is the time everybody was doing that, and this wasn't even doing anything like that. This was just a story where you're watching 2 different, whatever.
Yeah, you're watching a guy who has no fucking idea what's going on as your primary viewpoint character, and you are figuring it out at the same time he is.
Yeah,
Oh,
and the
yeah,
unanswered questions are fun. That's what I've
yeah,
learned doing this podcast, is that not knowing things is a lot more fun than being told.
yeah, yeah. That's. I think that's a better way to, that's a better way to go through media. But what do I know? Somehow Palpatine has returned.
Yes. Um. So, before we get into the scene by scene, which I do want to hustle into,
Yeah.
Overall, I thought this was pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
It did drag at some spots for me.
Yeah.
But also I like it was super dark, and I watched it during the day, which was a mistake. Watch it at night. But the darkness really did save some of the dated CG so that it actually looked pretty good. So I don't know. I wasn't I didn't enjoy it as much as last week's, as much as Cyber City, but I had a good time watching it and kind of remembering those 90s goth vibes that I used to love so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's regardless of its appearance on lists, this movie is not very cyberpunk at all.
No, it's noir. I think that's the only.
Yeah.
People sometimes think if it's noir and has technology that it's automatically cyberpunk.
Yeah. But the thing that carries this movie, as much as r/cyberpunk hates it, is vibes. This movie looks very cool, fucking German expressionist, huge, deep shadows and people desperate looking, and, it's fucking cool looking. What do you want? I mean,
and here at High Tech Low Life, we don't have a ban on the word vibes. We love them.
Yeah. That's I don't know. That's kind of the whole, that's why you watch a movie instead of just read the fucking Wikipedia article, right?
Well, to be fair, they banned the word vibes because people were just posting a bunch of pictures of city skylines and saying this has real cyberpunk vibes, and that would be obnoxious to moderate every day. It's vibe heavy, and I think pretty good acting. I really liked the characters in it.
Yeah. I think Kiefer Sutherland is doing maybe the most interesting performance of his career.
It's pretty good.
I cannot figure out why Kiefer Sutherland is this character. Neither could he, apparently.
Yeah.
Nobody. The story is that Kiefer Sutherland got the fucking script. He initially thought, "Oh, this must have been intended for my dad." This part.
Ooh. Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, I could easily see that.
R.I.P.
Yeah, but he decided, well, I mean, this is interesting enough. I'm going to go meet the director anyway. Maybe his next project or something will work something out. And Alex Proyas had no idea why the script went to him, because he had not initially sent it to Donald Sutherland, but thought, I don't know, give it a shot, see what you can do with it. And yeah, it's maybe the most interesting performance of Kiefer Sutherland's career. It is totally very not a Kiefer Sutherland performance or movie.
Yeah, but yet also, even though I hadn't seen this in 20 years, it's a performance. His look in this movie immediately pops to mind for me when I think of Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
I guess it imprinted on me. So I don't think about 24. I didn't care about 24.
Yeah.
I think about this, and I think about Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Also, let's just say it, Jennifer Connelly is probably the most pleasant thing to look at that's ever been on movies.
Yeah, and she is like Naomi Watts in Tank Girl a couple of weeks ago, just a fucking baby.
Not really, though. She was like I'm just thinking about, she's been in acting a long time by the time this came out. So she's definitely well experienced.
Oh yeah.
I think she's in her upper 20s probably.
Oh, I'm sure. But compared to...
Yeah, she's born in 70, so she's 28. Yeah, compared to what we're used to seeing her as.
Yeah. And Rufus Sewell, I think, is kind of the most thankless part in the movie, because all he does is run around and look desperate.
Yeah,
Um,
and act confused.
yeah. But
She does fine. He's got those
Yeah.
big eyes, man. He's like
yeah.
very intense all the time.
Yeah. And he can make those eyes bug out
Yeah, he
very
can.
well.
I also loved William Hurt. William Hurt
Oh, yeah, yeah.
was always fun to watch usually.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that guy was a total fucking dick. But
William Hurt was?
yeah, he was repeatedly had accusations of domestic violence and stuff like that over the course of like decades.
I'm starting to remember that coming
Yeah.
out like in the early 2020s.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it was very good. It's one of those like
Yeah.
it's tough to deny this guy brings something to the screen, and well, I am very sorry. Unfortunately, this isn't making him any money at this point. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's easier to do when they're dead.
Yep, helps. That really takes the edge off.
And then while we're talking about performances, let's give a little shout out to Richard O'Brien as Mr. Hand. That guy's creepy as fuck.
Yeah. But look, honestly, every fucking stranger in the movie, great.
Yeah.
Killing it, especially
That
the little kid.
Yeah.
Mr. Sleep? Is that Mr. Sleep? Yeah.
I think that's Mr. Sleep. Yeah.
Who was two kids, actually, twins, a girl and a boy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they were very fun, especially gnawing on Sewell's hand as he's
yeah, that was
falling out of
gross.
the doorway. Like, ugh, just a little monster. Ugh.
Didn't like him at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I did like him as a character. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. You want to start the recap then?
Yeah. So, like I said, Kiefer Sutherland's looking at space and a pocket watch, and then Rufus Sewell wakes up startled in a filthy fucking bathtub. It's
not filthy forever.
No.
But then again, nothing in this movie stays the way it is 5 minutes before. So that's kind of the point.
Yeah. It's got some really nice, like 1910s-ish tile work. You know,
that avocado green.
That it's more the jadeite green. If you're familiar with that, audience, no reason you would be. He is very confused, like visibly confused, naked. He has some blood on his forehead, and he gets out of the fucking tub, almost busts his ass immediately, where the movie would end, because this is one of those, 1920s bathrooms where everything is made out of fucking cast iron and covered in porcelain.
Yeah. It's good stuff. We should bring it back.
We should. It's a beautiful fucking bathroom. If it was clean. Anyway, he breaks a fish bowl, sticks a fish in the bathtub he just got out of because he doesn't want it to die. This is a very important moment in the movie because otherwise you will spend the next, I don't know, conservatively hour and 15 minutes going, well, this guy is clearly a murderer.
Yeah. A murderer wouldn't take that time to save the fish. Although I couldn't figure out why he where was the fish? How did that happen?
It was on the, why it was there, couldn't tell you. It was on the toilet tank.
Oh, okay.
And he knocked it over while he was slipping. So
do you think it was placed there by them to see if he would save the fish?
Sure, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Like the nice thing about this movie, in that literally everything is invented, is that we can make up all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Or, maybe it was placed there by Kiefer Sutherland as a signal of some sort. Who knows?
Right.
So then the phone rings. He picks it up, and it's Kiefer Sutherland in a phone booth. And you got to get the fuck out of there now. They're coming. They're coming for you.
He's coming. He's coming. He's coming.
Got like 30 fucking ticks. Rufus Sewell's got like 30 fucking dicks. Hey, that does remind me of probably the first thing I ever saw Rufus Sewell in, The Crying Game.
Oh. The only thing I can think of him, I know he's been in a ton, but is Man in the High Castle.
Yeah, he was very good in Man in the High Castle. He's currently on The Diplomat on Netflix with Kerry Russell. Oh, he was on The Beat That Makes You Old.
He was. Just saw that on his IMDb.
Yeah, he is great. He is one of my all-time favorite. Holy shit, Rufus Sewell's in this. That's going to be fun. He played a truly grotesque and disturbing Prince Andrew like last year, I think.
Speaking of that, the trivia says that Proyas, I forget his first name, Alex Proyas, like kind of conceived this while he was working on The Crow, and the speculation is that it would have been Brandon Lee in this lead role had he survived.
I don't think that would have worked as well.
You don't think so?
I think Brandon Lee was a I think it works better if our main character, both being like weird and not knowing what the fuck is going on, is also a slightly off-putting looking guy. Like Rufus Sewell pretty much never looks in place. He always looks slightly out of place, and his sense of and his ability to convey panic and what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
I don't know that Brandon Lee would have been able to bring that. Although I do love the way that piece of IMDb trivia is worded, because I saw that yesterday. Just the way whoever wrote that nonsense.
You mean the actual trivia piece itself?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's just very like, oh, sure. So obviously we're supposed to infer this. I mean, because he got the idea while he was working on this, and then I mean, subsequently, but Brandon Lee died, and so that probably would have happened though, right?
It's like that Chris Farley talk show.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like speculation with no grounding in reality. But I mean, could have been
sure
possible.
I'm sure he would have been fine, but I think Rufus Sewell brings the slightly weirdo energy.
I think Rufus Sewell is perfect in that role.
Yeah. So, gets a phone call from Kiefer. Kiefer says, "Get the fuck out of there. They're coming for you." And then he notices a lady corpse with a bunch of weird spirals cut / drawn on her.
Yes.
So he gets dressed, grabs a suitcase, and takes the fuck off. As he gets out the door, these Nosferatu-looking motherfuckers come up a stairwell.
Can I do a quick aside? Sorry to interrupt. And the spirals. There's this new anime on Adult Swim. Whoops. Called Uzumaki. My wife had me watch because she read the manga when she was young, and it scarred her.
Okay.
And it's about a town that's brain is being taken over by spirals.
Okay.
And they're like, I don't know. I don't know if one of these was inspired by the other. I don't know the timing, but the similarities between them of crazy people drawing spirals everywhere. It's just strange that I watched them both in the same week. That's all I'm saying.
That is, yes, strange that you would watch them both in the same week. Also, remember in the Saw films, that little puppet thing?
I did think of that too when I was watching. Yeah.
The Chris Rock's nightmarish vision of the most recent Saw movie was called Spiral from the Book of Saw. Spirals are a real thing. And I don't know exactly why.
I don't either.
But it's also like you see them in recurrent motifs as crazy people love a spiral. Go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
Like my thought is that spirals go back deep, deep, deep into prehistory.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's something that clearly is almost always going to be human made. Like that is an indicator of thought, I guess.
Plus it's one of the first shapes that you draw as a kid, right?
Yeah. So I assume it's some sort of, deep, deep cultural memory has just repeated spirals, or as my art in prehistory professor pronounced it, spiros, because because she's Serbian.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
The spiral motif.
That's not how that's said.
As a woman, wonderful lady.
Well, as an aside, that anime, just I learned it yesterday and it was hilarious. The first episode is like this gorgeous, genuinely creepy. In fact, I should probably say it as a recommendo. Very cool anime, and apparently, like they made this first episode, and then I don't know if it was part of Adult Swim being bought out or whatever they went through, or if they just decided to cancel the show, but they canceled it, but they wanted. The artist had done so much work on the rest of it that they didn't want to just throw it all away. So they released it. So you've got this first episode, which is this gorgeous black and white anime with these creepy, otherworldly stuff. And then the second one looks like worse than Speed Racer animation.
Newspaper strip bullshit.
Yes. And it's so jarring, but they didn't tell anybody. Like people had to research that and find out. And then of course there were articles written about it. So, just thought it was interesting and weird. And I definitely recommend the first episode. I think it stands on its own, even though it doesn't give away the actual twist, which my wife did spoil for me.
There was vaguely similar to that on the TV show that I've mentioned on many of our other shows, The Good Fight. They went into... it would have been, spring or summer of 2020. They had nearly an entire season of the show done, except for 2 episodes. And then they had some of this, next to last episode shot before the pandemic. And then the finale, they didn't have because of the pandemic. And the whole series this whole season had been leading up to literally some characters going to investigate Epstein's Island.
Oh no.
So the season finale of that was, I don't know, season 4 or 3 or something of The Good Fight is you get some scenes where you can sort of tell, if you understand how they did it, there's a whole bunch of, they assembled stuff from other episodes that hadn't aired. Mm-hmm. And then there are animated sequences to bridge everything, including an animated sequence of these characters going to and investigating Epstein's Island. It is a very weird setup, but I don't know. What do we do now? I guess we did all this work. We already wrote the episode. What are we going to do? Not put it out?
What poor timing.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
Anyway, it has nothing to do with Dark City, both of our asides.
Yeah, going back to Dark City. So Sewell takes off. He gets waylaid by the manager of the hotel. Apparently his 3 weeks are up. And, they got a call. He left his wallet at an automat. And his name is Jay Murdoch. And so he takes off. The strangers show up. They grab the hotel manager, and they've got this weird fucking syringe.
And they also have the power to say sleep
now.
A classic. I don't know if it started here or if it existed before, but
I couldn't.
Every kid has tried that on his friend.
Yeah,
sleep.
Yep. Don't know why that is, but it is a thing. So then the most interesting part of this is the strangers grab the hotel manager, and then a scene and a half later, he's replaced. They got a totally different actor, but he's playing the same character. Yeah. Yeah. It's suddenly a black dude. But he's still the same character.
With the same memories.
Yeah.
So and I guess it's important to say, we were talking about how as a cyberpunk, the concept of memory manipulation is a huge cyberpunk trope. Yeah. So in that regard, it does definitely fit.
Yeah. So we're what the fuck's going on? These Nosferatu looking motherfuckers. Curious how that
really are Nosferatu.
Yeah, I mean, he's really, Prez is really wearing the German expressionism fandom on his sleeve in this movie. And we go to suddenly Jennifer Connelly singing in a nightclub. And then she
This
goes.
is the second singing in a nightclub lady movie we've watched, I believe.
Yes, it is. After the Hugh Jackman one.
Rebecca Ferguson, I believe.
Yes. What's that called? Reminiscence.
Reminiscence. Yeah.
Yes.
They love their pretty lady singing in nightclubs.
Well, yeah, that was a standard in the 30s and 40s.
And the 90s mimicking the 30s and 40s.
Yeah. So Jennifer Connelly sings in a nightclub. It's great. She's a sexy lady singing. And then as she gets off stage, she gets this business card for a Dr. Schreiber, who she goes to his office. It's Kiefer Sutherland. And she talks about how her husband disappeared 3 weeks ago. And the doctor says basically like, yes, I know he was visiting me because you had that affair. And that's the speech from the beginning of the episode where, that might not occur right now. We'll see how Eric feels with the cutting. The speech where I stuck our names in. It appears that John has had it appears that John has had a psychotic break, complete memory loss, blah, blah, blah. So you got to let me know if you find him, and he's looking for you and himself. So you're like, wow, weird, because Kiefer Sutherland is giving a very weird fucking performance. He's kind of a vaguely sleazy, I don't know. It's a real odd one. And,
yeah, he's got
his eye looks like a bit of a clit.
His eye is fucked up. His hair is really like greased down in a weird bowl cut. He's definitely not the sexy Kiefer of the 1990s you would expect. Yeah. Genuinely off-putting.
Yeah,
in his mannerisms.
Yeah, he is really not giving a I want people to like me performance.
Right.
He is really giving a Steve Buscemi performance.
Yeah. But you find out shortly that he's a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Also not a guy I would like to sit in an office and tell my problems to. I just don't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, I mean, it can't be that bad, can it? And then she takes off, and we cut to our fourth character, William Hurt. He's a detective. He's entering the hotel, and this is when we see the replaced hotel manager. Mm-hmm. And the hotel manager says, yeah, he ran out. I just saw him run out, an hour ago or whatever. When we know this guy didn't see
shit.
Yeah, he wasn't there. So he goes up and is investigating the body and talks to his boss, and William Hurt, who's I'm not sure if I wrote his name down. Bum something. Bum? I don't know.
I remember him hearing Bumstead and kept thinking I was hearing it wrong because that's the Dagwood guy from the cartoons.
Oh yeah, that's true. Might be Bumstead though.
Inspector Frank Bumstead.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he is now on this investigation. This is apparently the sixth body. And he is replacing Walensky, who has gone mad. Detective Walensky, who will pop up later. And Hurt sees all these spirals all over the body, and is like, wow, this is some real serial killer shit. I guess I'll do this. Okay. Back to Sewell. He goes to the automat to get his wallet, and then evidences psychic powers.
Murdoch.
Yes, sorry.
Sometimes I wonder if the way we flip names in this show confuses people.
Yeah, well, they should just watch everything that we watch and be exactly in my head at all times.
Yes,
what I know actors from, and I mean, they should just be lucky that I don't call everybody by their character names in other movies.
Let's link it to this. They should get a syringe full of your memories injected into their own brain.
Yes.
That would make this podcast so much easier.
Yeah, it really would. So, then, Yeah, Murdoch evidences psychic powers by glowing waves coming out of his forehead, and the door that his wallet is behind opens up. So he takes it, and you're like, oh, so there's psychic shit now? All right, whatever. We're 15 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
So eventually, we get to William Hurt back at the office. Jennifer Connelly comes in about Murdoch, and she tells Bumstead that her husband's been gone 3 weeks. They were married for years, but why is she so uncomfortable with her wedding ring? Bumstead says. So you're like,
You've
wow,
been wearing
what
it
the
for
fuck?
30 years.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, 4 years.
Yeah.
She's been wearing it for 30 years. She's been wearing it in utero.
Yes. Sewell goes to a hooker's house. There's a teddy bear. And then later, this teddy bear pops up in his memories.
This prostitute looked so familiar to me.
I know. I had trouble with that too. I don't
Melissa
think...
George, I believe, is the actress.
Yeah, and I looked her up, and like I was convinced, oh, I must have seen her in, dozens of things, and couldn't come up with anything beyond like, a single episode of Law and Order in 2012 or something. So Sewell is at the sex worker's place. She's got her teddy bear we see later in a flashback for him. And he sees this postcard for Shell Beach. And this haunts the rest of the fucking movie.
Shell motherfucking Beach.
Yep. And Shell Beach in this movie has kind of an interesting place, because it is something that Alex Proyas refers to that is totally outside of you and I's experience. He said, the reason that I called it Shell Beach is because it seems like every goddamn city has a shell beach somewhere, whether or not you can find shells anywhere near it. Every city, every town has a shell beach by it, which is wild.
I don't think I've ever heard that before in my life.
Me neither. I think that is an Australian thing.
Must be.
Because, never... I don't think I've ever been to a shell beach, and I've been up and down some coasts. I mean, maybe it's that way on the coasts, the way that, like, say, something called Turkey Creek is in the West. Like, every county has its own Turkey Creek.
That's true. And but Shell Beach. Anyway.
Yeah. He chose it specifically because it was so anonymous. So... He finds this Shell Beach postcard, and then he takes off from the hooker's house. She's still alive, by the way. Just FYI.
Very much. And she has a daughter.
Yeah, and she has a daughter. And he ends up in front of a Shell Beach billboard up on top of a building, and finds a newspaper clipping in his pocket about this killer that's been murdering women. And then the strangers arrive. So... we got these Nosferatu-looking motherfuckers, and they're chasing him. One of them says, so it seems you've discovered your unpleasant nature? Sleep now! And he does not sleep now, unlike everybody we've seen so far. They have these fucking scary-looking knives, and they're doing psychic power shit with, like, walkways dissolving and, like, thwarting him getting the fuck away. But he barely ends up escaping. I think this is when the tiny stranger bites his hand.
No, that's later.
Oh, was it? Okay.
But this is the place where he first uses his own.
Yeah.
Tuning? Is that what it is? Tuning powers?
Yes.
And makes the walkway collapse underneath one of them, causing them to hang himself, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was. And also we catch some momentary glimpses of like the strangers' heads being full of tentacles.
Yeah, like the little squid things.
Yeah, little squids full of teeth. I don't know.
90s CGI teethy squids.
Fortunately, they use it in a very limited way, so it doesn't hurt the movie as much as it easily could have.
Oh yeah, I think their use of CGI was very good, actually. Like, there are a few places where it looks dated, but for the most part, the datedness, they managed to work that uncanny valley shit to their benefit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really happy with the special effects in this movie.
Yeah. The things with the actual strangers as opposed to their Nosferatu bodies they're piloting around.
Yeah.
Look like it's
Use
very
your dead as vessels.
Yeah, sexy.
That's a line coming up later. I might use that one for the intro. Actually,
that's be a pretty good one. Yeah, it's clearly 90s CGI, but they do it in a very controlled way. Yeah, it's a good deal. But he barely escapes, and then we cut to the Council of Weirdos. All these Nosferati? Question mark. I don't know how do you pluralize?
Is it Nosferati like for Latin based? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, all these
Nosferatus.
Yeah, all these Nosferatu motherfuckers are in this giant council room with like a giant sculpture of a human face, and they're seemingly worried because Murdoch seems to have these psychic powers, and that's not good. Because
humans are supposed to have that.
Yeah, that's not a thing. And it's going to interfere with their experiment. And by the way, all their names are nouns. Sleep, wall, hand. I don't remember what the other ones are, but
and they're all misters.
Yeah.
Although at one point there is what appears to be a lady Feratu.
Yeah.
But I guess she's probably a mister as well.
It's a Lasferatu.
A Lasferatu. Okay.
Yeah. She's Irish. She's a lass. And probably a ride. So it's a very weird scene. I mean, and the thing is, I'm gonna keep saying shit's weird and like dark and Nosferatu.
That's the whole point of the movie.
The point of the movie is shit is fucking noir German expressionism. I mean, it's clearly descended from fucking M and Metropolis and the Maltese.
Which we're going to cover, right?
Yeah,
we're going to cover Metropolis.
Yeah,
kind of excited. I've never seen it.
But God, which cut do we cover and which soundtrack do we cover?
Who knows?
Yeah. And, I mean, it's all these deep shadows and like bright lights, and it looks very cool. Like, this is another one of those movies where you could easily throw it on in a bar or at a party with no fucking sound on, and you'd have people going, wow, this is some wild shit, man.
I actually don't, and maybe it's a conversation for another time, but I don't know how they do lighting like that. Like the original, where he wakes up in that bathroom, there's one hanging light that's swinging.
Which is, like, I think Rufus Sewell is probably 5'10", and this light is swinging at the bottom of its arc. It is 5'11". Like, it so barely clears his head. They must have measured that.
I just don't know how they do it in movies, because it's a light in the middle of the room, but yet most of the room is enshrouded in complete darkness. And I'm sure it has to do with cameras and exposures and stuff that I don't understand, but it definitely makes for a cool look.
I know some of that. I know some of the basics of that. It is not worth exploring here, but
nobody cares. But
one of the real tricks is to basically, it's a really good way to get away with being very cheap on your lighting. And you see it especially on the street scenes in this movie, where people are lit. But the thing is, what you do is you just have one big fucking bank of lights, and you throw those, you basically point the lights just to the right of them or just to the left of them. So they're only getting the backsplash, basically. And that creates those, like, you have an intense light and nothing else, because most movies are, like, especially these days, movies are just lit within an inch of their lives, and they look just flat as hell, and everything is equally lit, and it drives me crazy. But that's not how this type of noir lighting works. It gives you the shadows and the depth to everything. It's I really wish people would do that more. It makes me sad. But everything has to look good on everybody's home Netflix box laptop.
Did you watch the pilot of the franchise TV show?
Yes, I did.
So you know that lighting plays
Yeah.
a part in that, and it was,
Yes.
that might be a good recommend. It's only got one episode, but so far
Yeah.
the franchise on HBO is pretty funny.
Yeah, and that's another show that has another one of my absolute fucking acting heroes, Richard E. Grant,
Yes,
just gnawing on scenery.
Good in it.
I love just being a catty asshole, while wearing
Racist
this
too. It's like,
racist,
oh yes,
transphobic ass.
in that movie I played a Chinaman.
Wouldn't happen today, of course. And he's wearing this purple fucking lipstick, taking himself so seriously.
But it's funny because you said that everybody wants more lighting, and that's a big part of that movie where the studio insisted on more lighting, and then their two main actors got their retinas burned.
Yeah, it's a cool time. I would say that's a cautious recommendo. I like very many of the people involved in that, but after only one ep, I'm not.
Yeah, it's hard to give it the full.
Yeah,
Monty.
So then we cut back to William Hurt driving Jennifer Connelly to her house. They're in a 49 Mercury, which is a cool looking car.
All the cars are cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's all like, and it's just this mixture of basically pick a car from, I don't know, prior to 1959, and it's probably in this movie.
Yeah. That's worth noting. I looked it up, and Jennifer Connelly, in the version we saw, does her own singing. She was lip syncing in the theatrical version.
Yeah.
Not the biggest fan of Jennifer Connelly's singing voice, but
she's fine. Bad. And I do not have high standards for woman singing in a bar in a movie. I mean, like, that's one of those things where for some reason I am fully willing to suspend disbelief. It does not work for woman singing in bar in TV show, as we know from our Creek of the Week experience. I do not suspend disbelief for that.
That's different. That was too much disbelief to suspend in that one.
Woman strangling cat on stage.
Katie Holmes, we love you. Stop singing, please.
Yes, please.
Busy Phillips, keep singing.
Yeah, she's great. So William Hurt drives her home, and she's like, "Do you really think my husband could be capable of all those murders?" And he's like, "I don't know. Let's hope he's not." And that's about it.
Is this where they talk about? He's like, where they start talking about memories, and or is it not happened yet?
I think that's later.
Right.
I could be wrong.
I should stop digressing then.
Yeah. So she goes into her apartment, and Rufus Sewell's there because he found the keys and his address and shit. And
we are still at the very beginning.
Yeah, we're like 30 minutes into the movie, if that. And he says a line that makes a lot of sense for the rest of the movie, where he says, "I feel like I'm living out someone else's nightmare." Mm-hmm. And she looks out the window. William Hurt's car is still there. And then Sewell tries to take off, and William Hurt shows up and chases him. There's a chase, and we're, fucking leaping across stairwells and shit like this. And this is the point at which Rufus Sewell starts reforming reality around himself more so.
He makes a door.
Yeah. And he escapes, getting into a classic checker cab. And we find out, and he's like, "Hey, will you take me to Shell Beach?" And the driver's like, "I can't remember how to get there." Huh. And this line is going to recur in virtually every fucking scene for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Nobody can remember how to get to Shell Beach.
Everybody loves Shell Beach.
Yeah, they've all been there. But I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of construction. I can't get there. And also Sewell got Dr. Schreiber's name while he was at the house.
Business card.
He's going to go see Dr. Schreiber. Somehow, wait, sorry. I accidentally hit page down, and yeah, there we go. Okay, so somehow William Hurt beats Sewell to Dr. Schreiber. Except you're like, oh, okay, so here's Dr. Schreiber, and here's this guy in this trench coat coming up to him. He's in a swimming pool. And you're like, oh shit, it isn't. It's the strangers. The strangers have found Kiefer. And he's swimming. He also works for them. They hate moisture.
Yeah.
And he explains that, like, no, so he resisted, like, somehow he wasn't asleep and he resisted when I was giving him the injection. So they're like, so we've got to reproduce Mr. Murdoch's memories again. And it turns into this thing where it's giving us a bunch of kind of hints of backstory that aren't really valuable. Like, Kiefer's like, well, you've hacked strays before. And they explain, like, no, this isn't a normal stray. This one can tune. Bum, 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 bum. So apparently,
they're just pointing out that he's special.
Yeah.
I want to also point out real quick that Kiefer, or Dr. Schreiber, you don't really know up until the very end
what
his
side
motivations
he's
or
on,
what side he's on. And
yeah.
I think Kiefer gets credit for that. The whole time you're like, who? Because usually, even if the POV character doesn't know, the viewer can usually suss it out pretty quick. But I was really on the fence. I didn't know which side Kiefer was on until the end.
Yeah, is it just keep on surviving? And, but yeah, he does very well at that. So, basically, it comes down to they're going to talk to Kiefer again after tonight's tuning. And then we cut to the changing room at the pool, and Sewell's there, and he's going through the doctor bag, finds this weird fucking syringe that he'd seen in one of the strangers' hands, and you're like, what the fuck? Because it's this cool, steampunky, fucking satanic-looking syringe. Can a syringe look satanic? I mean, it can, because that's what this is, but, it's this weird Art Deco
it's full of
thing.
Nosferatu juice.
Yeah. And... shit. Okay, so god damn it, all this stuff, like all these cuts are so fucking fast.
That's something to point out about this movie. What was it the trivia said?
Oh yeah, I saw that too. I don't remember what the number was, but
it's interesting because I felt it like that. I would say it's maybe one of the flaws of the movie. This film has one of the shortest average shot lengths of any modern narrative production at 1.8 seconds. That means there's a cut almost every 2 seconds.
Yeah, and
it feels like it.
Yeah, and that might be one of the flaws of the movie. I mean, like, I don't know, it's odd because I don't know. I think more the problem is this movie has a ton of scenes that it intersperses with other scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the cut speed contributes to that, or to the feeling of that.
It feels rushed, even though I don't think it necessarily is all that rushed, but it feels that way because the cuts are happening so fast.
Yeah, and it doesn't. I don't know. It's really odd now that you mention that. Like,
you're doing your little mic tap again, by the way.
Oh, sorry. This does feel like it has kind of the feeling of an hour and a half long movie that was cut down from like 2 hours and 15 minutes, even though it's a full 2 hours long. And it's not something that while you're watching it, you're going like, wow, this movie drags it out.
Yeah.
You're going, there's a lot of shit in this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. I don't know if it's good or bad, but
yeah,
it does make it hard to recap.
It certainly does. Okay, so Sewell gets a little of the story from Kiefer. Kiefer injects memories into people, and the strangers are just remixing people's memories. And basically, the big plot of this is that I'm just going to lay out the end of the movie now. Okay, so the strangers are fucking aliens or devils or something. Doesn't matter.
This is later than the narration did it. So
yeah, they're fucking aliens or something. They abducted a bunch of people from Earth. The thing with these aliens is they only have collective memories. They can't die, except we see some die. Don't worry about it. Shut up. And They want what we have, which is a sense of completeness and like basically they want to examine what's the human soul. They
And
figure,
individuality.
yeah, what's individuality and singularity, I guess.
They are a hive mind.
Yeah. So they figure they do some experiments, and this is all part of an experiment. Like, okay, so if we give somebody the memories of a killer, does that person become the killer? That's exactly what the Rufus Sewell plot is. Okay, they injected him with a bunch of memories from, I don't even know if they're people that existed or just entirely synthetic, whatever. But will he kill again because he has these memories of killing? Or is there something inherent to him that is not made up of memories? And if so, that's the human soul, I guess.
I guess.
That's
just not to think about it too much.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So they abducted all these people, allowed Kiefer Sutherland to keep his like scientific skills and stuff, but erased everything else. And now suddenly, out of nowhere, Rufus Sewell has adapted and has gained the ability to do the tuning like the same way that the strangers do. And they're very worried about that, understandably.
They don't really get into why this happened other than evolution is hinted at.
Yeah, they literally say at one point towards the end of the movie, I can't remember which one says, but basically it says, it's like Mr. Wall predicted, he has evolved. And you're like, okay, sure.
It's not really how evolution works, but we'll roll with it.
Yeah, whatever. So that's I don't know. That's the meta plot of the movie. And we get a bunch, like the movie is built of all this neat shit. Like we get William Hurt trying to do these investigations of things. And this was apparently the original plot of the movie, was going to be the original main character of the movie was going to be Walensky in the first drafts. Basically a detective trapped in this weird noir world. He doesn't realize he's never seen daylight.
Yeah.
And he keeps investigating these crimes that are like, that obviously occurred, but are somehow impossible. And the facts all conflict with each other because he's being fed different, like everybody is being fed different personalities every night or whatever. And
the world's changing. And
the world's changing. Yeah. And Alex Proyas realized, no, that would just drive somebody crazy. So that became the Walensky character.
Kind of cool. It's kind of like a little hidden prequel within the movie.
And I would honestly love to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. By the way, in this city, it's always night. Nobody remembers having been outside during the day when they were.
They'll remember it, but they can't remember it recently.
Mm-hmm. And that's that gets to I think Bertrand Russell came up with something called Last Thursdayism, which is no matter how certain you are, if there is a creator in the universe, you can't know that the entire universe wasn't created last Thursday because they could just assemble memories for you. You just remember last Wednesday.
Yeah. That's a pretty common cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's a philosophical problem.
Yeah.
So
you ever think about that laying in bed? Like, I guess that would lead into is it a simulation and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of what makes this movie vaguely cyberpunk, except for the main bit of movie trivia, which is half these sets were recycled for The Matrix the next year.
Well, yeah,
no, very literally.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I read it. That's going to lead into my inspiration rating or whatever we call it.
Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Influenza. Well, we can, we don't, it is such a weird thing to recap because it does cut back and forth so fast. And there are a lot of scenes that look the same. Like there are several scenes of William Hurt and, what's her name in the car
Jennifer
talking.
Connelly. Yeah.
And that's why they blend together.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know.
And it flows when you're watching it.
It does. And what I should have done is gone. I should have watched the movie another time, and gone through and sort of arranged the notes. Like, here's a block of what Rufus Sewell does until the next time he runs into William Hurt. Here's a block of what William Hurt does until the next time, whatever. But it is,
at this point,
a hard way to do it.
It is. Do you want to cut to an important plot point we haven't covered yet, where Mr. Hand gets injected with Rufus Sewell, whose fucking main character name is Murdoch, gets injected with Murdoch's memories, and in a way becomes somewhat human. Only he got injected with the fucking psychopathic serial killer memories.
Yeah.
So he's a bad person now.
He's not good. Not that we necessarily think the strangers are good either.
No,
but yeah.
They're at least somewhat neutral. Now he's actively bad.
Yeah, so that happens. Kiefer's like, you seriously? You want me to jam this in your fucking forehead?
And some of the strangers were like, we shouldn't do this.
Yeah, this seems like a bad idea. It seems weird. But they go ahead and do it. And then he does the serial killing on the sex worker from earlier.
Straight to her.
Yeah. And he's stalking, like he stalks Jennifer Connelly because he remembers meeting her at a dock.
I liked that scene, actually.
Yeah.
He and her at the dock talking, and she misses her husband, and she doesn't know that he kind of is her husband.
Yeah.
But he's this angry version of her husband that's upset that she cheated on him and wants to kill her.
Yeah.
I thought there was a lot going on in that scene, and I thought it was acted really well.
Yeah, it really was. And also, I don't know, the fact, and this is like, I guess, in retrospect, this is an easy thing to do in a movie. Like, not having her react to this Nosferatu-looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
Who is, like, and the thing is, when I keep saying Nosferatu-ass-looking motherfucker, it just means they're pale and bald, and they're wearing fucking overcoats and hats.
Yeah.
Like, it would be very easy in film to have all the human characters recoil from them instinctively.
Right.
But really, everybody's like, oh, that's a slightly weird looking dude. Like, there's nothing to it, which I think that's a really good way to, I don't know. That's,
well, who knows? They could have put something in all the memory juice that makes that style perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like when when you're like out in the world and you see a nun like at the gas station, and you're like,
I love that.
Whoa, I forgot that those are actually things that aren't in movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And honestly, just so everybody knows, I'm not Nosferatu shaming. I bicked my head yesterday. So I myself am a Nosferatu ass looking motherfucker.
Except for like in the summer, you become very much not an Nosferatu.
That's true. Yeah. So yeah, he gets. Yeah, they have a really interesting conversation. It's honestly hard to equate how this conversation works because, yeah, she misses her husband. He is and isn't her husband.
He's hinting like at his own. What she thinks is his own life, which is very similar to hers. I don't know.
Yeah, she says, "I met my husband here," and he's like, "I met my wife here. What a coincidence!"
And he's doing it very creepily, but I don't know. I don't even know how important the scene is to the movie. I just liked it.
Yeah, it's a good scene. And this is where we get it's hinted at the communal memory thing and stuff.
Oh right, he says. Is that this scene where he's like, imagine a type of people who shared one memory and then someone found out a way to be different. It's delivered much better than that. But it shows them. It's a good way of, I don't know, showing, not telling. He is telling, but he's at least telling another character of the motivations of the strangers. Because at this point, you don't really know why they're doing it. He kind of explains like there's loneliness in just being one mind, basically.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Honestly, like for all the cool visuals and stuff in this movie, that might be the best single scene in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of like what it's doing, and how much it conveys and hints at. Yeah, it's a very great scene. Let's see. We go through a bunch of other stuff. Rufus Sewell goes to an aquarium run by his uncle Carl, except he doesn't remember him.
And the aquarium is just a bunch of fish tanks. Like,
Yeah,
I know
just a
an
bunch of
aquarium by definition is just a bunch of fish tanks, but it's like a bunch of small 5-gallon fish tanks.
It's like a pet store in a small town.
Yeah, exactly.
Except the lighting is very dramatic.
Remember when we were kids and like Walmarts used to have the fish
Yeah.
section? I'd always go to the fish section of like Walmart in
Yeah.
Central Kansas. That
Wow,
doesn't
look at these
happen anymore.
betas. Yeah.
Yeah. Check out these tank full of guppies.
Yeah. Ooh. I heard Alco got some new tiny sharks in.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah.
The 80s are weird, man.
80s were weird. Okay, can't deny that. And we also figure out that Rufus Sewell is not Carl's nephew because he does not have a scar on his arm, which is evident in a number of the old pictures.
Yeah.
So what's that mean? We don't know. Fuck it. Who cares? It's at this point that Jennifer Connelly goes to the sex worker's apartment, finds the sex worker's daughter hiding under the bed, and
Meets up with William Hurt.
Meets with William Hurt again. He talks about how he's finding holes in his memory and like knows his mother gave him something but can't remember like whatever happened to her. And it's this
fucking accordion, which I just knew there had to be an accordion in this movie. It just
Yeah,
feels
why
like a
not?
movie that needs an accordion.
Yeah, sure. So
He's been influenced by Walensky.
yes, yeah, he's like maybe Walensky was fucking onto something, and Walensky threw himself in front of a train earlier,
Yeah,
like
that's a
right
cool
by
scene.
Rufus Sewell.
I figured a way out.
I think that subway station might be in the Matrix movies.
That might be where the famous
Yeah,
Neo dodging the bullets.
yeah, could be.
Damn, now I feel like we should do the Matrix sooner.
Yeah,
Too bad. It's going to be our last episode.
yep. We're gonna cover every Matrix movie except the first one.
Yep.
So, Rufus Sewell is at his Uncle Carl's aquarium. Strangers show up. He gets captured.
After a long chase. And
Yeah, long chase.
this is where he jumps on Mr. Hand. It's during this chase. And where Mr. Hand says, "We use your dead as vessels," which is the only time they've ever hinted of where they got their bodies.
Yeah.
But it was a good delivery, man. I got a little chill when he says it. I'm like, oh, fuck, that's fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie is very cool.
Yeah.
So, and they also have, we built this city on stolen memories. We revise it every night to learn about being human because we need to be like you. And they have this big fight on top of the building, and Sewell ends up being thrown off the side of it. And this actual fight right here is something that when I was looking at, I was like, wow, I remember this very clearly. And I realized, no, I don't. I remember this specific rooftop from The Matrix.
Yeah.
Very
they use
clearly.
the rooftops.
Yeah. Like, I don't remember it from this movie very clearly. I remember The Matrix very clearly when they were on this specific roof.
Yeah.
So more chasing, and like buildings are changing around him, and one's moving close. Two buildings are mashing up against each other. One of the strangers gets crushed between them. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Sewell's like running down this hallway and like suddenly psychically makes a fucking door appear at the end of the hall and like, just races through it and finds out it's to absolutely fucking nowhere, like midair, seven stories to the ground.
Yeah.
And then
this is where he gets bit by the kid.
Yeah, this is where the kid bites his hand.
Yeah, it's so creepy. That kid is so fucking creepy.
Yeah. He barely escapes this whole thing, but gets grabbed by William Hurt and Jennifer Connelly. Then there's like a real normal, like noir interrogation.
Yeah.
Except he's suddenly like, except he's like, well, I mean, you can't remember anything. You ever been to Shell Beach? Like, yeah, sure, of course I've been to Shell Beach.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw a day? Like, when's the last time you saw the sun?
Well, I mean,
well, now that you mention it, that does seem odd. And then Rufus Sewell levitates a book at him.
I explain this, bitch.
Yeah. So it's all totally normal and fine. And then Jennifer Connelly visits him in like a normal visitation room, glass, phones, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly he breaks out with his psychic powers.
Yeah.
And it's at this point that one of the cooler sequences in the movie, like also one of the better, like more normally lit sequences of the movie, when the strangers enter the police station. And there's just this crowd of fucking Nosferatu wandering through a like pretty normal looking police station going, sleep now, sleep now, sleep now. It's very funny. Like, I don't know. How much more of this do we want to like?
Well, we can summarize. They all hook up together, William Hurt, John, and Jennifer Connelly, and they decide we got to get to Shell Beach.
We got to escape. And
and they also they hook up with the doctor too.
Yeah,
they go and they kidnap Dr. Schraber, and they're like, we got to go to Shell Beach, and Dr. Schraber's like, you don't want to go to Shell Beach, but they head there anyway, and they do it by car.
Yeah, and then they have to go down a hallway, and they reach a wall with a billboard on it.
Yeah, this is after they've rowed a boat for a while, too.
Yeah, they were on a boat.
And the whole time they're kind of getting the story from the doctor. They're finally kind of getting it out of him, although he's being weird about it. That's why I never really knew what side he was on.
Yeah, he's kind of cagey about it.
But they find the hallway with the wall, and they know something. This is the end, basically. They come to the end of town, and it's time to smash this wall. And thankfully, there are 2 sledgehammers just sitting here.
One of them is just a giant pipe, but yes. Okay. They start bashing the shit out of this.
At this point, like William Hurt is all in, right?
Yeah, he's totally. He knows that this is not something he can come back from.
Yeah, which is good because he's not going to.
Yeah. So then some strangers show up with Jennifer Connelly. Hurt shoots a couple of them, and then like just right as the strangers show up, they burst through the wall, and outside the wall is space.
Just space.
Yeah. We have a wrestling match. William Hurt and a stranger fly outside the wall. They die.
And then you get to see a vision of Dark City from William Hurt's point of view as he's sucked off into space. Sucked off. Sorry, I was thinking about ghosts for a second. That's my favorite joke in that show.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ghostbusters, where Dan Aykroyd gets sucked off by a ghost.
No, that also works. So you see, the city is just kind of this disc floating in space.
Yeah, it's
like
just
a space station, I guess.
Yeah, it's a It's a disc with a city on it.
Yeah. And then he never to be seen again. That's our second movie in a row where a guy gets spaced.
Yeah, that's true. Huh. All right, great. So Murdoch gets captured. He's on a roller coaster to hell. Yeah. He's like strapped down to this thing, and they
use the sleep thing on him. It actually works this time, but it's like it doesn't work well. He keeps coming in and out of it, and they keep having to re-sleep him. And
it really seems like we only see, I think, 3 times where they go sleep, but it really seems like that's 3 of 9 times during this trip. I don't know. It has a weird rhythm to it that makes me think it's a comedy bit. Like he's put to sleep and then wakes up almost immediately. Like, what's happening? Sleep. Fuck.
They've got guys just working in shifts.
Yeah,
to get him every 10 minutes.
Yeah, so he's on this fucking roller coaster down to the conclave of weirdos, with a giant face with a clock behind it, etc. And they're going to inject him with their memories so that he will get their soul, right?
Well, yeah, they've also basically determined at this point that our experiment is over. This is our answer. It's this guy. We put our memories into him, and our problem's solved. So they say, "Shut it down."
Yeah,
as in shut down the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, and the kid one says, "Kill him."
Yeah, I was getting vibes of Paul Atreides' sister in the
Aaliyah.
Lynch version of Aaliyah in the Lynch Dune.
Yeah.
My brother will kill you, huh?
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck she says.
Yeah. So Kiefer goes and injects him. Except this injection is a trick on the aliens. This injection is Kiefer lecturing.
Yeah, and we skipped where he presents this like way earlier in the film.
Yeah.
He's like, "All your answers are here," and Murdoch's like, "I ain't taking fucking a syringe from a rando," and I don't blame him.
Yeah, fair. I mean,
but now Kiefer has his chance, and he injects it, and basically gets a lifetime of psychic training in instantaneously, and that's pretty cool.
And it's an interesting like I don't know, seen out of context because I posted about this and just did like a search for Dark City, and one of the GIFs that I came up with was this sequence where it's like zoom in, weird bubble vision, and it's like Kiefer is an ice cream man going, "You got to kill him with your mind, kid."
Yeah.
And then zoom out, and it's Kiefer as a high school teacher in the 1940s or whatever. It looks deranged out of context, but it's pretty neat in the context of the film.
In the context, it makes sense because it shows him like, like meeting Jennifer Connelly, and Kiefer like shows up and goes, "No time for love. We've got to practice." So you can imagine, this is his whole, like a whole life's worth of memories.
Neat. And they did a very good job of, like, this is kind of the minimum amount of it that you could possibly have. But the instinct would be to go for a lot more of this. Like, it's, you have a training montage. You want that to last a couple of minutes, right?
Right, yeah.
But this is 40 seconds, if that, intercut with the strangers yelling at Kiefer Sutherland because they see he has a second syringe, and it's all a trick.
It was also interesting that they chose, it's just normal Kiefer. It's not like weird Dr. Schreiber Kiefer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's like him putting an idealized version of himself in there or what he wishes he was like.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know why they do it that way, but it does. I thought it was a good choice.
Yeah. So Rufus Sewell wakes up after this and starts laying psychic waste. We then see like 7 to 9 minutes of him and some strangers just like floating and staring.
Yeah. This is the point where this movie gets more anime than the movie we covered last week.
Yeah, it's just like dudes floating and staring at each other, and then a wave of destruction passes over things. And
I have this problem with a lot of movies where like you're like, this is the ultimate psychic power. This person is more powerful than any creature we've ever known, and he uses that to fling trash cans around or gently throw people against the wall. Like, come on, make him explode. Just rip him to shreds.
Yeah. Yeah, Fist of the North Star, this shit. Let's get it over with.
It's Fist of the North Star, this motherfucker. Why are you just throwing him backwards over and over again?
Yeah, it's... so anyway, he kills a ton of strangers. Pretty much all of them. We'll come back to that.
Most of
them. And the world is coming apart. Like, the whole fucking world is coming apart. But he can do anything now because of his incredible psychic powers. So he saves the world and starts putting it back together.
Mm-hmm. He has become Neo.
Yeah, he has become Neo. He creates Shell Beach at the edge of the world. Like suddenly there's fucking water running out of these pipes and an ocean and a
the physics didn't make much sense, but
it
I
made
can
no
hand
sense.
wave
Who
it.
cares? Yeah, who gives a shit? Like, yeah, who gives a shit?
He's like the mega psychic, and they mentioned at one point that the machines underground helped with the psychic energy, so I'm just going to assume it's all working.
Yeah, he's very much the end of Akira. Like,
and that's quoted as one of the inspirations for this movie.
Sure, totally fucking believe it. So then after all this fucking nonsense, We cut to Anna, which is now Jennifer Connelly's name. She's working in a movie theater showing a movie called Book of Dreams, which was an early Alex Proyas movie.
Oh.
And also it's, kind of symbolic for this movie, just the title.
Definitely.
So, she gets on the bus and is going to Shell Beach. And as Rufus Sewell is about to walk out onto this pier that Jennifer Connelly is at the end of, he runs into the last stranger, the one that
Mr.
has
Hand.
Mr. Hand, who has his memories. And Mr. Hand is dying. And it turns out that the fifth element was love all along.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally the end of the movie. Rufus Sewell was like, taps at his forehead and is like, "You were trying to get us through here." that was the wrong place to look.
I was so happy he said that's the wrong place instead of said, "You should have looked through here," and tapped his heart, because that would have made me puke a little bit.
Yeah, that would have been bad. But it's also exactly what it was getting at.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
I'm just glad he didn't do the exact cliche.
Yeah. So the sun comes out from behind a beautiful model of the city. And Sewell walks out onto the pier to Jennifer Connelly, and that's the end of the movie. A happy ending.
They meet for the first time again.
It's exactly like 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore and
basically
Adam
the same
Sandler.
movie.
And hey, related to that, would you like to hear about the box office numbers for this film?
Oh yes, I would.
So this opened at number 4 on February 27, 1998. Would you like to guess what the number 1 film is?
Thinking back, I can't. I don't know.
It's actually a movie that came out in late 97. It's still one of the biggest movies in the world.
Titanic.
Titanic in its 11th week.
Wow. Yeah, that movie kind of just destroyed the box office for everybody else for a while there.
Yeah. The number 2 at the box office that week was The Wedding Singer with Drew Barrymore and
which
Adam
we went and saw in the
Sandler.
theater. I very remember very clearly.
Yes. In its 3rd week, and then 3rd was Good Will Hunting. So that weekend, Titanic made slightly over $19 million.
Wow. That's 11th week.
Would you like to guess how much this movie made?
Titanic made 11?
No, 19.
Oh, 19?
In its 11th week.
6?
This movie made 5.
Oh, so close.
Which is a full 1/3 of its domestic box office.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then it made 12 international, bring it up to $27 million box office for a $25 million budget.
That is kind of crazy. Would you think 2 years later, 1 year later, The Matrix came out?
One year, yeah.
And this is so similar to The Matrix. Like, let's not beat around the bush. Matrix might have borrowed some shit from this movie.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
I mean, literally, it borrowed some shit from
borrowed
this
sets. Like, they were like, hey, can we have this? Sure.
But it might have borrowed some ideas or at least some style. But so crazy because it's not as good as The Matrix. I'm not going to lie and say it is, but it's not that. It's definitely better than the second Matrix.
Sure, absolutely.
And crazy that it did so poorly when The Matrix was like a phenomenon almost as big as Titanic.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I don't know. It's that there was also right at that, kind of very end of the 90s, right into 2000-ish. There was that what is reality trend in movies like, this, The Matrix,
Fight Club.
Fight Club. We mentioned Memento, stuff like that. Yeah. It's like, it's like this was kind of the time, and like the biggest movie in the world a year later was The Matrix, which looks exactly like this movie.
Completely similar vibes.
Like it looks exactly like this movie.
Because half of the movie is in it.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think this movie would have worked nearly as well if Keanu Reeves was playing Rufus Sewell. I don't know, man.
Whoa. I'm trying to picture it.
Like I think Keanu would do okay at it, but I don't think fucking bugged out freaking is his natural habitat.
Bugged out freaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it was all like just the cast of I don't know. Why is The Matrix so much more successful than this when they were released virtually the same time and are virtually the same themes? That's
yeah.
mind fuck.
Yeah, it's really maybe because The Matrix is all about, at least theoretically, The Matrix has this gloss of, oh, it's computers, as opposed to this one being like, I don't know, they're fucking aliens, whatever.
Yeah, The Matrix didn't fuck with any of the noir stuff, whereas this was heavily leaning into that, and that was not a popular genre in the late 90s at all. So who knows? I don't know.
Although,
that's crazy.
Now that I think about it, that is one of the things that I've read is the very few studio notes that they had about The Matrix. Initially, the whole reason that humans were going to be, humans are in their little cell things with all their cells, with all the ports in them and stuff, their goo tubes.
Cells, yeah.
Which was going to be like their processing power, all the brains linked together powers all these robots. But then the studio said, no, that's too complicated. Just act like they're batteries or something. Which is one of like the sticking points of The Matrix, because it's incredibly inefficient to feed human stuff to make them produce energy.
I also just realized that it wasn't necessarily the style or story of The Matrix that made it so huge. It was the technology and the fight scenes. So
that too, and also I know kung fu
and the one-liners.
Yeah,
this didn't have like its action scenes looked either like a 1940s detective noir where they're just running along catwalks, or like some bad anime where they're floating in the air looking at each other hard,
as opposed to the first Matrix movie, which regardless of anything else, that fucking lobby shootout is just like the definition of, wow, that's how you do a shootout.
Well, and the bullet time that would later take place in the subway from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That is interesting. While we're on the topic of what influences this could have had, let's go through its other ratings.
Yes, let's do.
Starting, just a reminder, everybody, we have 5 different rating systems. 4 of them are a 1 to 10 scale. One of them is a 1 to 5 scale. It's totally normal and makes perfect sense.
Yep.
The first rating is for the storyline and how we thought about the story and writing. I mean, like we said, it was getting a little long in the tooth probably by like 2001, this what is reality. But in 1998, it was kind of starting the trend. So I don't want to cut it for, being overdone.
Yeah. I am perfectly comfortable giving this a 7.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's not an inherently sci-fi concept. Like there are plenty of movies that cover kind of the same shit. Mm-hmm. But who gives a shit? It's well executed. And the thing with this movie is that the style rating, the vibes of this movie are fucking immaculate, and that's going to cover so many goddamn flaws.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. I think the influence, I'm going to give it a 7 as well. Maybe a 7.5, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that the Wachowskis probably saw this movie, and I had to have.
If they didn't, it is such an incredible occurrence of concurrent evolution.
Yeah.
Like exactly. It's one of those things where, I don't know, it's almost impossible to be coincidence.
Yeah.
Because it is exactly the same looking movie. They're like, well, what if instead of wool overcoats, we went with leather overcoats? All right. Ding.
And like, it's hard to, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like this movie feels familiar in a way that leads me to believe there are bits of it spread throughout other movies I've seen.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because I remember watching this movie exactly once, and it was on VHS, and I like that's it. But I remembered a lot of the fucking movie, some of which was not from The Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think 7.5 is very good for influence.
Prescience. It doesn't. I'm gonna give it an NA. I don't even think.
Yeah.
It's not a future. It's not a dystopia. It's like some random occurrence in another.
I am a weird electric fire bug using your dead as a vessel.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 10 for that, but that's my own personal case.
Style. It's hard to argue.
I love the style in this movie, just as I love the style of virtually every movie made between 1926 and 1956.
Yeah. You're one of those noir dudes. I'm gonna give it a 9 to leave room for improvement. I don't think it's like the most stylish thing.
Yeah, okay. I see your logic there. Like,
I'm trying to look at what we've given 10s. We gave Blade Runner a 10. We gave
yeah.
Eon Flux a 10. Those are 10s, man. I don't know if this is quite
they
on
really
that
are.
level.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think a 9 is a very good place to sit with it, especially when we're considering production design, etc. within that style.
Yeah. A 9 is not bad. It's just not perfect.
Yeah, and it's not the transcendently perfect of Blade Runner and Eon Flux, two of the most stylish things ever put in media.
Yeah, no kidding. Just looking. Yeah, we don't give many 10s. Hackers, we gave a 10. I might have been
fair.
That might have been a little high.
No, that's fair.
Snow Crash. No, Snow Crash. We didn't give a 10. Yeah, I think those are 3: Blade Runner, Eon Flux, and Hackers.
Yeah.
Wow. Hackers.
I mean, come on. Remember, serial killers.
Oh,
tiny
Tron.
little glasses.
We gave Tron a 10.
Fair. Yeah.
That's very fair too. Okay. Lastly, 1 to 5 hand raisers. How much did you like it?
I would say 4. I think.
4.25.
Okay. Actually, yeah, I like that. I like that better than mine. Yeah, I think that's good because it
just
does
a hair more than 4.
It does feel a little better than a 4.
Yeah, but not quite a 4.5.
And I was kind of worried going into this week, like, man, I don't remember anything cyberpunk about this movie. I vaguely remember it looked kind of cool.
Both accurate memories.
What the fuck? What if this might be a nightmare? This might be fucking terrible. Yeah. I was so pleasantly surprised when it turned out to be very watchable.
Same. I was kind of worried that it was going to be lame, and like I said, it did drag for me in spots. But there was, there's just a lot of backstory they had to get out, and I think they did a good job of it, like without laying it out in a fucking monologue in the beginning, which I'm so glad I didn't see that version.
Are you sure you don't want Kiefer to monologue about you? The strangers came and abducted us. minute 1 of the film, let's lay out the entire backstory when literally 75% of this movie is Rufus Sewell wandering around confused about the backstory of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, good job not... Yeah, fuck.
All right. This movie... we both liked. We both agree, not very cyberpunk.
No. So we're gonna switch it up. We're gonna do the most cyberpunk fucking movie we know. Arguably more cyberpunk than Cyber City 808.
More cyberpunk than Blade Runner, definitely. We are lying. We are actually it's October. We're gonna pull a non-cyberpunk card for our cyberpunk podcast. And just go off the fact that its creator has done some very cyberpunk stuff.
Oh, including this last week. Hey, great. That's our thing. That's our connection.
What are you talking about?
I posted that John Carpenter he gave that interview. He's like, Trump's a real piece of shit. I can't believe racists are allowed to walk the streets these days, assholes.
Its creator has done cyberpunk and rules. So we're going to do the thing.
A grumpy king. Yes.
We stand a grumpy king.
And a grumpy thing.
We stand a grumpy thing. Yeah, fuck it. We're gonna go to Antarctica. It's 2 weeks before Halloween, or actually a week before Halloween, probably when it airs. We're gonna do the thing, and then we're gonna do another scary movie after that is more cyberpunk and was recommended by a listener, and I think it'll be a good Halloween episode.
Yeah.
We're just keeping it spooky for October. Come on.
Fuck yeah, spoopy season, baby.
I know there are other spooky cyberpunk things, but we were looking through a list, and somebody on a Reddit thread said this was cyberpunk horror, and we're like, didn't even question it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to watch The Thing. I haven't seen The Thing in years. The Thing is fucking great.
The Thing rules. John Carpenter rules, and just give us this one, guys.
Eventually we're going to have to watch They Live, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely.
I mean, that does.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. They Live counts, and I want to do They Live. We could have done it next week. Actually, maybe we should have.
No, let's do The Thing.
Okay.
Look, man, I'm just picturing in my head fucking Kurt Russell with a beard and that fucking parka.
It's such a good movie. Maybe we should. Maybe we should Patreon it, and watch it together.
That's not a bad idea. I would absolutely do that. I think I got the Blu-ray in here.
So we'll do that next week. Until then, find us on Twitter at Johnny60Seconds. Find us on Blue Sky, High Tech Low Life Podcast. Email us, hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't. We're on there too. And that's it. Do you have a quote to send us out on?
Kill him!
Perfect. See you next week, everybody.
Bye!
This has been the High Tech Low Life Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60Seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Hype the planet! Hype the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.